Every little detail that you're about to see in this video was shot some 4 years back. But in the spirit of keeping the channel going, let me tell you a short story of the northern parts of Kenya. Oh, and save for the new additionals, courtesy of my good friends, not everything was shot 4 years ago. As you venture into northern Kenya, the first thing that you get to experience along the Marsabit-Isiolo Road is a mountain called Ololokwe, but the locals call it the Oldonyo Sabachi. So beautiful things have even more beautiful stories, and that's the case with Mount Ololokwe. There are a couple of things that you can get to do there if you want just to go and experience the mountain. If you're a hiker, you can hike. If you're a camper, you can camp there as well. And some of the things that you get from getting to the top of that mountain is a beautiful, beautiful scenery of some parts of northern Kenya. Northern Kenya, as you know it, is a semi-arid place. And semi-arid place have these specific people who are called pastoralists. Pastoralists don't stay in one spot. They keep moving around in search of water and pasture. And this is how we met the Rendille. So every couple of years, the Rendille do this big initiation ceremony where young boys get to transition into manhood. It's a ceremony that is filled with color and pomp and dance and singing and just a community being so rich in their diversity that nothing phases them. The thing that I notice about these people is they're so deep into their culture, and that is the identity they wear with so much pride. And it was just a beauty to watch them go on about their daily life, and life to them makes sense that way. So the larger Marsabit County has a place called the North Horr, and it's in the North Horr that you find a desert in Kenya called Chalbi. The Chalbi Desert borders Ethiopia and sits east of Lake Turkana. Lake Turkana, hold that thought for just a few more minutes. Chalbi is one of the hottest and arid places in Kenya, and as you explore the northern side of this country, you get to experience the greenery that is very scarce, but is very, very full of life, with pastoralists roaming those sides of the country. Nature has a very peculiar way of showcasing its beauty. In this case, we're in the middle of a desert, but we got to experience the sand dunes of Chalbi. You can decide to either wake up very early in the morning or do a late evening drive and chase a sunrise or a sunset, depending on what your preference is. But for us, we decided to wake up very early in the morning and get to see the sunrise on top of a dune. This might be the most interesting bit about me being in northern Kenya. Around that time, I had just bought a new drone, and this was my first major trip going to film and explore Kenya as a whole. So I flew this drone along the Marsabit-Isiolo Road. We got to see Mount Ololokwe. We went and chilled with the Rendille, got some overhead shots. We went to Chalbi Desert, got the dunes, and I was having some really good fun being my first time flying a drone in Kenya. Now, On our way to our next destination, which is Lake Turkana, is where the madness began. We got to Lake Turkana, beautiful place. I fired up my drone and just went straight into the lake. Now, for some weird reason, I had a battery that is full of charge. But after a few minutes, my drone just went like landing. And at that time, I was very fresh. I didn't know much about flying drones. I was panicking. And in an effort of returning the drone back to land, that's when I lost it and it crashed into the water. Now, I'm just a new drone pilot. I've spent like around 140,000 getting that drone, and it's a drone that I had barely for a week because this was my first major trip. So I was panicking, I was distraught, and I thought my trip had come to an end. But before it crashed into the lake, I'd gotten some really beautiful footage of an island that is called Long Ek. So Lake Turkana is the world's largest permanent desert lake. It is a lake that is very rich in fish, but as the local people call it, Anam Kaalakol, which basically means a sea of many fish. Now, the following morning, when we were at this place called Ngurunit, we had gone there to get to experience the springs that are famous in that area. Something told me, Goofy, just try your drone one more time and see if it works. If it doesn't work, either you can repair it. I don't like repairing electronics when they're chewed, or you can buy another one. It will take time, but you'll get it. And let me tell you, I put this battery back on and the drone just went on. And I was like the happiest person around that area. So I was dancing and I was in celebratory mode because, this thing has really stressed me, but it's back up and functioning. And whatever you're about to see at the first few images after my drone had fell into Lake Turkana. We have a theory here that says if it was not a freshwater lake, my drone would have not come back on. But it was a freshwater lake and that place was really hot, so it really helped with the drying. I really can't explain the concept behind it, but all I can say is it saved me a lot of money and trouble and stress. As we come to the end of this northern Kenya trip, let me take you to a place where your inner child gets awakened. Ngurunit is famous for its springs, and while you're there, you might want to take a dip, or if your inner child is awakened enough, you can decide to slide through the rocks and into the streams. Northern Kenya is a trip that I'd highly recommend for anyone who is into adventure or wants to explore the parts of Kenya that are not necessarily mainstream to go. Because of this trip, you'll spend a lot of time in your car. The tourist attractions are far and apart. It's super hot. It's not convenient. They don't have the best of hotels, but trust me, if you are into landscapes and just the beauty that is Kenya and traveling and being out there, this is something that I'd highly recommend if you want to explore these sides of Kenya. Now, why am I doing things that I shot 4 years ago? In the spirit of keeping the channel going and being as consistent, I am checking out stories that I've done over the recent years that I haven't extensively talked about, and this happens to be one of them. And by the way, thank you to all the 400 new subscribers to the channel. I'm so happy. Thank you very much for being part of Going Goofy. See you on the next.